Well, who wrote the New York Times op-ed titled, "I am part of the resistance"? That is the question a lot of people want answered this morning, especially President Trump.
Brandy's here with his reaction and yours. Brandy.
Yeah, guys, everyone's been talking about this. President Trump lashed out after this op-ed written anonymously went live yesterday, and the Times included a little note here about why it took the rare step of publishing an anonymous op-ed. It says the author is a senior official in the Trump administration whose job would be jeopardized, but it was an important perspective for its readers. That's why the Times published it. So in our live poll this morning, we want to know, do you believe the op-ed? You can vote on khou.com/vote now or on our mobile app. President Trump, of course, tweeted about it several times into the night. The last one, quote, "I'm draining the swamp and the swamp is trying to fight back." He says, "Don't worry, we will win." But he didn't just sound off on Twitter.
An anonymous editorial. Can you believe it? Anonymous, meaning gutless, a gutless editorial.
So if you haven't read it, here are a few takeaways. The author wrote, many senior Trump administration officials, quote, "are working diligently from within to frustrate parts of his agenda and his worst inclinations." The root of the problem, it says, is the president's immorality. And the author described meetings where the president engages in repetitive rants and occasionally makes reckless decisions that have to be walked back. Cue Stephen Colbert.
Mr. President, they traced the resistance. It's coming from inside the White House. Get out of there!
So the big question, of course, that's what everyone's asking, is who wrote this thing? I posed that question yesterday on Twitter. This person wrote back, John Barron, you might remember, that's the name that Donald Trump used to call in sources, or to call in stories as an anonymous source. This person says, Jared, is that you? Referencing Jared Kushner. Texan says it's someone who really cares about our democracy, hopes he comes out one day. And then William says this is garbage. He calls it garbage. He says it's anonymous sources, and that means it's fake. I will say an anonymous source doesn't mean that a story is fake. That's right. Something journalists rely on. Sure. And it's kind of a last-ditch effort to tell a story, but sometimes that is the only way to do it. And the Times said in its little blurb, that's what it felt it had to do.
Yeah, the Times says, we know who this person is. Right. We know they work in the White House. We just can't tell you who they are.
Yep.
So we're asking you folks at home what you think about this. What's your reaction? 44% now saying you don't believe it, but now the majority saying they believe it. So I'm sure the numbers will go back and forth this morning. Log on and let us know what you think.